Oh man, that means I can't be me now.
Yeah. But we'll have evidence.
We'll have evidence. Oh my. Ugh. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming and learning about the environment through the Envirothon. I'm Kimberly Sullivan. This is Denise Poyer. I work with, I'm a freshwater fisheries biologist with the state of Rhode Island. And Denise works as an education coordinator / biologist with Wood-Pawcatuck Watershed Association. We see a lot of familiar faces, so it means that we've talked to you before. Real quick, we're switching gears completely, and we're doing aquatics. And right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, Denise and I are going to pass around 2 index cards. I reduced it to 2 due to time constraints. What I want you to do on each one of these index cards is I'd like you to think of 2 ways that you use water. Any which way you use water. We're going to start you thinking about the clear stuff, and that's how we're going to start. So that's why you also got the pen, so now you don't have an excuse not to do it.
Everybody can do this.
Yes.
Two ways that
I hand everybody 2, right? Yeah.
we use water.
One on each card.
One on each card.
Awesome.
One thought.
And then I have to relocate where I put the tape. Yeah. All right, so we're going to give you about 2 minutes as I locate tape. I put it down someplace. The tape, right here. How, it's up to you.
Two uses of
Personally,
water, think of water. Whatever. Water.
water. Nice
First
general
impressions of water.
topic. And do we have a driver's pen? Okay. Because I'm going to work against myself here. Awesome. I was going to try working against myself here, but I'm not. I'm going to use that. Okay. Great.
Here. Well, we have dry erase markers. Whiteboard markers.
Well, they're overhead projector markers, so we don't want to take any chances. But I think we got some. Does everybody have 2 uses of water? Need a little bit more time? Two, you got 2. All right, excellent. All right, let's continue on. Who wants to be the first volunteer to tell me what they have or how they use water? Water your garden, okay. Now, does anyone else here have something similar to watering the garden? What does yours say?
Watering garden.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Yeah? Drinking. All right, so we'll put water garden over here. Then we have drinking. I put water garden.
Oh, you don't use that.
Now, we'll do this one.
Okay, you're going to be very envious of this because it's green, but it's green so far as the color they've got. She's going to check and see if they've got some more.
That's okay. We only need 1. All right, so we have, I have all this tape. We have watering the garden and drinking water.
Anybody
Who
else?
has drinking water? Drinking. Okay, we got a lot of drinking waters. Okay. I guess that should be in Actually, the drinking should kind of be over here. So we'll go and we'll get a whole bunch over here of drinking water.
So we're just gonna.
All right, so we drink water. I guess we need that to survive. All right, what other uses do we have that we've written down for ways we use water? Yep. To wash with. Excellent. Okay, so bathing, washing with.
Does that include laundry and dryers?
What was that?
Does that include laundry?
Yes. Well, we'll go with that.
There's a couple of dry erase markers.
Thank you. So, drinking. Let's see, bathing. What was that? Plumbing. Oh, that is kind of nice. We'll go with it. We'll allow. All right, so bathing to shower. All washing related. So we could probably put water garden. Should we put that over there? Or should we, 'cause I'm thinking those might be good. We can also put one over there too. How about we do the shower and stuff over there? What do you think?
I think this one's
Here? Okay. All right, so
That's all showering.
that's all showering, bathing. All right, do we have any other uses? Yep.
Chinese water torture.
Chinese water torture.
An outlier.
You know what?
Military use.
Military use. Does anyone have anything similar to that? Squirt guns. Does someone have squirt guns? All right. Okay. Do we want to say, well, I don't know if that'd be recreation. But, all right, that'll be in a category all its own. But swimming and recreation, we'll go with that. How's that? Yep, recreation.
Yeah. How about power?
So we'll do fishing, recreation. What is that? Agriculture? Well, hold on. Oh, for the watering the garden. Excellent. All right, any recreation? Swimming? Fishing? Boating? All right. That one goes to watering garden. And power. All right, we got a power. Does anyone have power? Power. Cooling nuclear generator. We'll go with that. All right. So, power, energy. All right. Does anyone have any others?
Flushing toilets and dispersing our waste.
Flushing right there, flushing toilets. That might go under plumbing. So, all right, so we'll do plumbing and flushing toilets. And just waste disposal. All right. Any others? Yep. Okay, well, transportation is a good one. And cooling would be for we'll lump with power. So, does anyone have it? Transportation. Power, toilet, or plumbing. Transportation. What kinds of modes of transportation are we talking about? Boats. Canoes. All right. Do we have any other ways we use water? Probably we'll go with that. Drinking water. Oh, water quote. Habitat. Excellent. Anyone else have a habitat one? Okay. All right, this one goes with watering gardens.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what were we doing as we were asking about the different types of ideas? Well, we were saying, oh, well, what about this? What about this? What we have created are different categories. So let's see, for swimming, fishing, boating, that one. Recreation. So we'll just go like this, and we'll put recreation. Not that anybody can see it anyway, but we'll go with it. All right, and then we had transportation. Well, that's kind of close to recreation, so we'll kind of put that in around the same type of idea. Tide pool. All right, and then a whole bunch of people wrote one of the most essential for us as humans, not the flushing of the toilet yet. We're going to go with drinking water right now. So, drinking water. So water, we need it to drink. Then, we're drinking stuff, we need to flush our waste down. So we put that all under plumbing. Yeah, we're putting the water as they drink water as well. So we have the drinking water, the recreation, transportation, plumbing. Now we have bathing and doing clothes and stuff. What kind of category can we put all those in as we lump them together? Hygiene. Perfect. So we'll put hygiene. Now these were words that we had actually had already put together automatically. And the last category that looks like we have, two categories.
Yeah, we actually have 3 more.
Oh, 3 more, sorry. We have the agriculture, which has the watering gardens and stuff like that. But that can kind of go into, it kind of meshes in with drinking water, because I look at it as the plants are kind of drinking the water too, but that's kind of a weird out there thing. But we can reach it. We can reach it. They're all intermixed. And then we have the use of energy and power. What kind of water power, or how do we normally harness the water power? Hydroelectric. How else? Usually we build what? Dams. And so that's something that we have used throughout the ages for that. So we have power. We use it for cooling. Yep. Steam, exactly.
Probably less
Steam.
now than hydroelectric.
It's also, as we're doing the power, we're putting cool water to cool stuff out. We're emitting hot water, and as you go through, that's also ends up becoming a human impact on our ecosystem, is adding heated water to cooler water systems. And then we have habitat. Every living organism requires water for their habitat. And by doing this, we realize how important, and want to open your minds to how important water is for everybody. You guys already know it, but sometimes when you're switching gears from one subject to another, it's good to think about everything that water encompasses and touches as we go into learning about aquatics through the session. I think, and the only other thing we didn't touch on was the Chinese water torture, means of punishment. So military use, they also require water. So excellent. Now, basically what we did was a quick little activity in Project Wild. Gets us thinking about water, Project Wet. Gets us thinking about water a little bit. And with that said, we're going to dive into Denise, and we're going to talk now about water. So, oh yeah, I guess I need this.
Okay, so one of the things I noticed that really stuck out to me when you did this is called idea pools, IDAR, idea pools. to get you thinking about water. One of the things that really jumped out at me is that you all are self-centered, okay? You all are looking at water from your perspective. And yet, water covers how much of the planet? About 75% of the planet. Every living organism uses water at some point or in some way. We're only a fraction of that. And yet, look at all the things and the ways that we use water. So what do you think is going to happen when we use water? We could use it in wasteful ways. We will impact our habitat. We will impact our environment. We use so much water in so many ways, and when we're done using that water, we don't necessarily discharge it in a very clean and wonderful state for other uses. So we impact our environment, we impact our habitat, we impact others' environment and habitat. So I want you now to turn your chairs facing the table in the middle. And actually, I think probably what would work best is if you guys stood up, and you're going to have to give me some room. Don't be like the fourth graders who crowd me here. I want to see. So, one of the things I hope to do as an environmental educator is to get you to start thinking about water, not just for you, from your own personal perspective, but water from a natural perspective. And the way that I want you to start thinking about water is in terms of watersheds. So I have two watersheds up here. One is a very good physical representation of a watershed. The other one is a lousy representation of a watershed. In fact, it's really incorrect. I want you to take 2 minutes, take a look at both of these, and then I'm going to ask you for very specifics about what is the proper representation of a watershed and why, and what is the improper representation of a watershed and why. So get up, move around, take a look, 2 minutes. You can chat amongst yourselves with your teammates. Okay. All right. Sit down. We're good. Yeah.
These are some very impressive rivers.
I know. You know. Yeah. Okay, everybody sit down, back down again.
What does the tape represent?
I'm afraid we're going to be a little rushed on some of these things because we got a lot to cover. But let's start off. Could somebody tell me what is the good representation of a watershed? Which one? A or B? A. Okay. Give me one reason why that's a good representation of a watershed. Doesn't have water that flows uphill. Does water normally flow uphill? No. It can under what circumstances?
Earthquakes.
Yeah, it could. And there are no earthquakes going on in a normal watershed. And even if there are, it's very brief. So it could go uphill with added power. Somebody's pumping.
But also, if its source is coming from a higher place, for instance, the New York City watershed, which is in upstate New York, it's all higher than New York City, and yet the water that flows all the way downhill from the Catskill Mountains flows upwards into water tanks on top of buildings.
what's the driving force behind a watershed? Gravity, okay? So in normal circumstances, watersheds have water that flows downhill. Okay, one other reason why this is a good representation of a watershed. One other reason, yep.
All the water culminates to one central point where it kind of, like a river, shoots out.
Yep, so the real definition of a watershed, and this is why this is a good representation, I'm not going to do the water demonstration, but this watershed is kind of an enclosed area. It's a natural area where all the water that falls on it is going to end out at one common outlet. This watershed, I don't know, I don't know what they were thinking. They have the common outlet outside of the defined boundary of the watershed, okay? So that's two. One more reason why this is a good representation and this is probably not. You know, it could, but you know, no, I haven't found any. I've never found lines on the ground naturally.
What was that supposed to represent, that purple?
The purple is supposed to represent the boundaries of a watershed. What are the boundaries of a watershed?
If you look at where it is collected, that's more at a low point where that's kind of like slant. So what's if that were one of the watersheds be more collected in the
Yes, so where the water is going to collect. This one has kind of a natural depression flowing downhill, collecting at the lowest part. This one kind of is all over the place. Again, not a very good representation of a watershed. So watersheds kind of collect all the water that fall on them. How do we have ponds at higher elevations than the outlet of the watershed? You can have all sorts of you can have all sorts of ponds because as the water's flowing downhill, if the land kind of evens out a little bit, they could collect there. Wetlands are very common, collecting in a kind of a low spot, but not necessarily the low spot of the watershed. Usually the low spot of the watershed is the outlet. Okay? So watersheds, an area where all the water that falls out onto it all drains out to one common outlet, usually the lowest spot. In a large watershed, it usually drains out to the ocean, especially in this area. There are watersheds that are huge, like the Mississippi River watershed, Connecticut River watershed, huge watersheds that drain a lot, but it all drains out into one common area. Watersheds are natural boundaries, okay? What are the boundaries of a watershed? Look at this model. Yep.
Like maybe mountains or just high places that...
The high places of the land, yep. The mountains, not Rhode Island, but I've been in a lot of watersheds with mountains, hills, so the high points of the land. If it doesn't fall on this green part of this watershed and it falls on another area, is it falling on another watershed? Yeah. Do we all live in a watershed? Okay. Do you know what watershed you live in? What's your watershed address?
Situate and, I guess it's the reservoir?
Or the Patuxent River watershed. Okay, Patuxent, because the Situate Reservoir is part of the Patuxent River system, okay? What watershed do you live in? What town do you live in? Okay, what river is near you? It's going to be a question on the exam, is I am going to ask you what watershed your school is in. What's your watershed address? We should all know. In Coventry, there's the Big River and the Patuxent River, but the Big River is all part of the Patuxent River watershed, so you live in the Patuxent River watershed.
If, for instance, I live on a hill and the water goes down to the river, but the river immediately pretty much flows out to Narragansett Bay, which would it be? Would it be Narragansett Bay?
You're in the Narragansett Bay watershed. You're in a coastal watershed. So if you live near the coast and the water just drains right out to the Narragansett Bay or to one of the sounds, then you live in the coastal watershed. But know where you live.
But if you live in
What river?
What's the river? I'm really bad with names. It's what is the river?
Oh, then you live in the Penobscot watershed. Penobscot watershed. Yep, it's Yep, Penobscot.
Start there and then work your way back.
So,
Sure how big the watersheds were.
yeah. So look up. Yeah. Look up and see where you live.
Our school's on Brook Street, the name of the brook is Brook.
So the Brook watershed.
It's actually like, kill in Dutch is
Yeah.
river. So the Cat's River, of course, we call it the Catskill River, we call it the Cat's River River. We didn't know kill meant rivers.
I didn't know that either. Okay, so know where you live. Why is it important to know what watershed you live in? Why would that be important? Why would I care?
Runoff going to the river, like fertilizer and such.
So the activities that go on in the watershed are going to affect downstream, whatever's going on downstream. If you've got farms up in the headlands, you could be adding fertilizers and stuff. If you've got cities over near the outlet, you could be adding a lot of runoff into the bays and stuff like that. So it's important to know what watershed you're in, where you are in that watershed. Okay? So watersheds, I will have a lot of questions about watersheds. Most people do not know what a watershed is, and I want to make sure you guys know that. So I'm going to go into groundwater. Like I said, we've got a lot to cover in aquatics, and I'm only going to be able to touch on very basic things today. We have a lot of resources up on the web, but you can take a look at what it is you're supposed to know for this exam. And if you have any questions, you can always email me or Kim, okay, for resources, specific resources. So we're going to touch on groundwater. This is one of my favorite models. So what can you tell me about groundwater? It's in the ground, absolutely. Where does groundwater come from? How does it get? Yep, any type of precipitation. So tell me about what's been going on the last couple of weeks in New England. What's happening out there as far as water goes? Snowing, yep. Snow is a really good, a really important form of precipitation in a lot of areas. Tell me about snow. What are some, I'm looking for like 2 specific properties of snow that would be important to, not really us so much, but the habitat. It's crystalline. Why would that be important to the habitat?
Well, it stays on top of the ground longer and it takes longer to seep.
Yeah, so it's almost like a storage for water. In a lot of communities, mountainous communities, they may not get a lot of rain during the summer. There's a lot of instances of that. The Sierra Nevadas are a good example. Over in the Andes in South America, they get a lot of snow during the winter. The water slowly melts out, slowly seeps into the ground, and then they have water flowing all year round. I've been to the Sierras in September, and there's still a lot of water flow, even though there hasn't been any rain because it's taken so long. So snow can be a form of water storage. And so you think about as we go through global warming, and we have less snow events, it can cause problems with not having enough snow for people during the summertime. So it can affect people and the habitat directly. So that's one. Another nice property of snow, and I've been thinking about that because it's been so extremely cold these last couple of days. And what snow does is actually acts as an insulator, okay? It can actually keep the ground a little bit warmer because it insulates it. And why would that be important? Who would that affect? Organisms in the ground, yeah, what kind of organisms? There you go. There are animals that live underground, and if it's too cold, the ground will start freezing and freezing lower and lower, and these guys, need some insulation. The snow actually acts as an insulation. We haven't had that much snow, so I'm worried about those little critters because it might not be insulating their habitat enough.
But it
Yeah, and what,
Upsides and downs.
upsides and downsides to everything. One of the things I've been thinking about with this very cold is the woolly adelgid. Have you heard of the woolly adelgid? Yes. What does it attack?
Eastern hemlock.
Eastern hemlocks. And I know that several years ago they were finding that they were stopped at about, because they were making their way very rapidly up the East Coast, they were stopped at about the New Hampshire border because of the colder winters. Apparently they cannot survive very cold winters. So, and there's so many beautiful hemlock forests in New England that have been affected that I'm hoping that that'll be a positive thing this winter. Okay, so snow. So again, as we're thinking about watersheds, we're thinking about the interaction of land and water. And we know that water gets into the ground through precipitation. So usually I ask for volunteers, but we're just going to hurry up here. So we're going to precipitate on my nice little aquifer model. And so as we precipitate, what's happening in this model? Water seeping down to the bottom, yeah. What? It's percolating. Whoa, that's a good word. It's percolating through what? Permeable. And what is it going through? How is it, what's the pores, yes. So it's going through pore spaces in the ground. And can everybody see this? If you can't, you can stand up and come around. So it's percolating through pore spaces in the ground. And so after it's percolated, it kind of stops at a kind of a level area in this model anyway. Do you know what that is called? Water table. Absolutely. The water table is where the groundwater, the highest point of the groundwater. So, does the water table ever move? So what's the verdict? Yes? No? Yes. Okay. What would make the water table move?
Less rainfall and less water going down into
Okay. So long periods of drought would make the water table do what? Decrease, go down. Okay. I'm going to ask you to help me with this. You're going to squeeze it. Okay. So if this was a normal outdoor area, this water would be moving very slowly through the ground out to where? Where does the water table, or where does the groundwater tend to move towards? Lower points, yep. This is an underground aquifer. This is an aquifer. So it could move towards the aquifers. It could move towards, very common, ocean, yep. Move towards the ocean, moving towards rivers. Okay? So, did the water table go down? Yep. What else can make the water table go down? And this is a good example of it. Yeah, pumping, water withdrawal. Okay? We withdraw water. When do we withdraw water a lot of times? What? Wells, yep. We'll give it a break. Wells, so we pump water. How many people are on well water? Okay. How many people don't know what they're on? Okay. Where do you live? Okay, you're on well water. You're on town well water. The town actually has wells that it pumps water from. How many people are on water from the Situate Reservoir? Okay. How many people don't know? If you're in Providence, yeah, Situate, Cranston, Warwick. If you live in Situate, you're on well water. No matter how close you are to that reservoir, you're on well water, okay? So if you're in Coventry, a lot of people are on well water from Kent County Water Authority, okay?
We had a question over here.
Yep.
So are all aquifers, do all aquifers drain out to an ocean or a river?
No,
No.
no.
So those are the ones whose water tables would be more susceptible to overwhelming.
So there are aquifers in the southwest that were filled thousands of years ago and don't get
or almost none.
Every gallon we think so.
Yeah, so not all aquifers drain out to a river. In this area, almost all of them do. You're commonly going to find aquifers around river systems. And I've got to keep moving here. The groundwater or the water table drops. Does the water table ever go up? Yes. Okay, what would make it go up? Rain. Not even long periods of rain, just rain. Okay? Precipitation. Snow. It snows, and then in the springtime, the snow melts slowly.
Down here, we don't live by snow the way they do out west.
Yeah.
However, I do know that last year, that's a good point. However, the fact that we had very little snow last year severely, and as well as a little bit of rain as well, severely affected our swift rivers and streams. And we were actually at the point in June where we usually are in August, which severely affected our trout and our streams and even the invasive species.
There was a meeting, the state was convening a meeting for the drought committee about to issue suggestions to do in June. And that's because of the lack of snow and a low rain period, but the lack of snow also contributed to it. So snow during the spring does help fill up our groundwater and kind of give us a little buffer in the summertime. So the water table can go up when it rains. It can go down when there has been a drought for a while and this is drained out to a river. Do we ever see the groundwater? That's one way. If you've ever been at the beach and you've all dug down and you hit the water table as it's draining out to the ocean. There's another, we have seen the groundwater all the time. So this representation is of a, give a little more water in there. Land, I had it very flat, but land is usually up and down. Give it enough here so you can see. Usually there's hills and valleys. So what does this look like to you? Could be a lake, a river. But you can see the direct connection between surface water and groundwater. So technically, when you're looking at a river or a pond, you're seeing just about where the groundwater level is in that area. Okay? There's a direct connection. So when we talk about water withdrawals, when we talk about pollution effects, even if what we're doing is on the ground, it could get into the groundwater and affect our beautiful lake. So let's do a quick demonstration. Can everybody see this? So when I pour this, I don't care what we call it, red tide, pollution, oil, antifreeze on the ground, and I think I'm all set, and yet, because there's a direct connection, can you all see that? Between groundwater and surface water, anything I do could affect that surface water. So when we talk about protection of our waterways, we also need to look at what we're doing on the land, because it's the land use that's going to really impact. Not very frequently now, with the advent of the Clean Water Act, there's been a lot of regulations about what is put directly into a waterway. I mean, there still is some pollution discharges, but really what we're finding now, we've done a very good job of point source pollution. Somebody tell me what point source pollution is? Yes? Yes, yep. We can go and we can point and say, that's pollution's going right into my river. You know, end of the pipe, sewage treatment plants, factories that have lagoons that are right next to a river. So we've done a good job about developing regulations around that to limit at least what they're doing. However, a lot of our pollution now into our waterways is coming from the land. Stormwater runoff, agricultural uses, things like that. So in order to protect our rivers and waterways, we need to take a look at what's going on the land around it. Just another couple of terms. what, the area that's below the water table, we call that the saturated zone, because all of the pore spaces are saturated. They're all full of water. The area above the water table is the unsaturated zone. And this is where you have a lot of your roots and your microorganisms and your insects and things like that living, is usually in this unsaturated zone. Okay, so things to think about. A lot of other points I could make about this, but I think I'm going to turn it over to Kim. Kim's going to do a stormwater activity, and then if we have time, I'm going to touch on aquatic invasive species. As I said, there's a lot to cover in aquatics. We're going to focus, obviously, on the things we're covering here, but I do want you to take a look, and if you have any questions and you don't have enough resources, give me an email or Kim an email, okay?
All right. So what we're going to do is we kind of decided as a team to kind of go away a little bit from the whole PowerPoint presentation. Like actually do some hands-on stuff to truly understand the concepts. All right, so who can tell me about stormwater? What is stormwater? Pretty basic concept, right? Somebody tell me about stormwater. Now, you're talking, it rains all the time. Does that necessarily not necessarily be equated to stormwater? Large amounts. We're talking excess amounts of water. And what usually happens in nature, think about you're walking in the woods, so on and so forth. What usually happens when that stormwater comes in? It's a whole bunch of water. Where does it go? Stays on top, and then what does it do? It slowly goes down, just like Denise's model, because that was all sorts of stormwater going on there. It hits the trees before it hits the ground. So basically, what happens in that situation when we have stormwater in nature is about 50% usually goes directly down into the ground.
You're talking about forested areas?
Yeah, forested area, natural habitat, so on and so forth. Then we have 40% is evaporation and transpiration. What's transpiration? Tree sweat. Tree sweat. So yeah, we'll go with that. So about 40% of the rain. Now we have 100% here. All right. 50% just goes directly. And what was that nice little term you guys used? Start with P. Percolates. I just like the word. I want to hear somebody say it. And then 40% goes to evaporation, transpiration, and then 10% ends up being runoff. Where does the runoff usually end up going in a natural situation? It goes directly into the river, so it makes its little way down into, and it may cause some erosion and stuff, but it does make its way down. Now, this would be considered a pervious surface, which means that everything can just kind of go down nice naturally, so on and so forth. Well, then we built the city. I think they actually wrote a song about it too. But anyway, of course, I realize now I just felt really old as I said that because So anyway, so now we have the city. Well, what happens when all of a sudden, we'll put a little waterway there. All right, so we have 100% of the rain coming down, and then we have all this storm water that's coming down. How much, let's say it's a really pretty big city, how much do you think can make it into the ground? 5%. Huh? 5, 10%, maybe 20%. But we'll go with about 5 to 10%. And why is that? Exactly. There's no way for that water to go anywhere. So now you have all this water, a big storm just hit, and so only 5 goes to the ground. Then we have, we'll say 40% going into evaporation, because stuff still evaporates. It's evaporating, that pavement's dark, evaporates up. There is some transpiration. There are some trees along the sidewalks. However, that ends up, about 55% actually ends up becoming runoff. Now, we go into the whole topic of point versus non-point pollution. And this would be fine as it runs off, goes right into the stream. There might be, a lot more erosion. But what's happening on these streams and what's on these streets that could cause issues? Motor oil. Also, somebody's walking along, throws their can on the street. So now we're talking that all sorts of pollution ends up being point pollution, is where you can find it, whereas what's non-point pollution? It's stuff where it's kind of indeterminate, right? You can't really decide where exactly it's coming from. And that's where it comes into fertilizers and with the runoff roadways, silts. What do we do on winters to make sure that we can actually get here today? What do they put down? Salts and sand. Well, in small quantities, it's okay. But then we talk about turnaround, and it ends up being excess. And then the problem with cities is that it actually ends up right into, because watersheds work on, what did we say, gravity, right? It actually ends up right directly into our waterways. So what we're going to do today is we are going to demonstrate what we know as called best management practices. Pretty much cities and towns have cited this as a really bad source of pollution to our lakes and streams and rivers, and they have created management plans. What people can do, what you can do, what I can do, what the cities and towns can do to reduce the amount of polluted runoff going directly into the lakes and streams in more urbanized area. I mean, even in the rural area, we're talking a lot more just from a side road being sanded and stuff goes right into those lakes and streams.
I just want to tell you one figure that they've come up with. One of the most fragile habitats are the small streams. They're smaller, they don't have a lot of buffering capacity, they're very susceptible to degradation. They've determined that looking at a watershed or even a sub-watershed around the stream, if it's when it starts to be about 5% impervious surfaces, only 5% it starts to be affected. Anything with 10% more
think, now you're city managers and city planners now. What kinds of things would you do to stop that runoff coming into the rivers? Can anybody give me some quick suggestions? And yeah, you have any idea of what you could do to? Yep.
Semi-permeable driveways?
Semi-permeable driveways. Excellent. There's a porous concrete that you can actually use. Yep. Storm drains. That's a good one. So that it doesn't get into the sewers. Yep. Exactly. So these are all ways that we can manage. And basically what you're doing with these is creating more pervious surface. If you put a rain garden and you end up taking out what would be pavement and non-porous surfaces, and you're actually putting a pervious surface in. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide into 5 groups. We have 5 different sections. Now I know that we have 7 schools here. Is that what it is? All right, so 2 schools will have to double up. So, all right, 7 teams. So you guys can go ahead and team up real quick with the different schools. So we have 5.
3 over here.
Yep. We have 3. Yeah, we have 3 over here. And basically, what you're going to do is you're not going to do anything until you're actually by your site. So one person will need to be the keeper, the record keeper, and then you'll notice that there are 2 cards. Please keep those turned over until after we do the first activity real quick. All right, go ahead and break up into your groups, please.
So,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
one over here, one over here.
Denise, there were 2 cards over here.
Well, there's
Oh, okay.
room here for more people.
Yeah, there's room for more people. Do you want to take those and put them outside? There we go. All right. Oh, there we go. All right, so y'all have, if you're in your group, go to one of the stations. There's this free station over here. If you guys are part of the group, free station over here. All right. Yep, go ahead. 1, 2, 3. All right, I think everybody has their stuff. All right. So, sorry. Horse. There you go. All right. Can I have your attention, please? Okay, so don't make me touch your head to make sure that you're listening. I'll do the whole preschool thing. Touch your head, touch shoulders, knees, toes. Okay, you guys are listening to me now. All right, so you each have 2 paint tray liners. They're set up. The top tray has a hole in the bottom. Don't flip the trays around. And basically what each of you have is a cup of water. And what you're going to do is you're going to pour that water for 1 minute at the top of your tray. This actually is there we go. No, it was me. All right, so you have sponges in the paper bags, or in the plastic bags, and you're going to take, and do you have a watch, Denise? Yep. All right, for 1 minute, you are going to pour that cup of water over the plastic sponges.
Starting on my mark, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you're gonna let it sit for 1 minute and let it drain.
And just want to make sure it's at a tilt. Some of these, yeah. So ideally, what you want it to do is you want the water to go through the hole, so you may have to tilt that back part up a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's a storm. It's a storm. Or you can do it nice and easy, however you want to do it.
Pouring short, so you got 5 seconds to finish pouring, and then you're gonna let it sit for 1 minute. Okay, stop pouring. All right, we're gonna let it sit out for 30 seconds.
I was going to say 30 seconds. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to remove the top tray, push it to the side, and then you are going to dump that water into the initial cup. So take the top tray out, push it to the side. Whatever water is left in the bottom tray, dump it back into your cup. And then you need to give me a measurement.
Where am I reading? Put it on the table and then look at the...
And on the lower level, that's where round 1 goes in. That's where you would put how much water you had was started with a cup.
I'll go around and make sure.
Yeah. All right, is everybody done?
I am.
You are done. Excellent. How about you guys? You guys all set back there?
You guys, we gotta have your attention.
If you can hear me, touch your head. If you can hear me, touch your shoulders. Oh, you guys are good.
You're still talking.
You're still talking. If you can hear me, touch your knees.
Hey guys, table in the middle. Pay attention.
All right. So now we're going to go group by group, and I want to know how much actually of water you collected back. So the group starting over here, how much water did you collect back? 1 cup. And you start out with what? 1 cup. All right. Second group.
We have 1 cup.
1 cup. You guys. So how much did you guys get?
3/4 of a cup.
3/4 of a cup. All right. How about you guys? What did you get?
207.305 milliliters.
Excellent. You can do that. That's better for me. Plus minus 905. Excellent. How about you? 3/4 of a cup. All right. So if you can hear me, touch your nose. Excellent. I don't mind looking silly. So, all right. Anyway, real quick. So it looks like you pretty much most of you got the exact same amount. And why do you think that is? Because plastic is what kind of surface? Non-permeable surface. All right, real quick, and it has to be real quick because we are running out of time. Pick up one of your best management practice cards, read it, and do what it says on the card. So you only need 1. We're only going to do this 1 time. All right, we'll go around. All right, once you're all set up, you guys are all set up? Oh, sorry.
Hit city, entire city ecosystem.
Use better light. It's a crappy camera. Sorry.
your sponges in place? Okay, listen to their directions. All right.
Okay, so you're gonna pour the water for 15 seconds, starting on my mark.
1,001, 1,002.
Go.
Remember, it's a storm. It's a storm.
Okay, stop. Make sure it's all poured.
Okay, I'll pour all your water in real quick. All right.
Okay, let it drain for 30 seconds. And then you're gonna, guess what you're gonna do after it drains for 30 seconds?
Measure it. Perfect. You guys are sharp.
30 seconds.
Okay, you may measure it now.
That's been my whole my entire college career.
Once.
Yeah.
They get something sometimes.
We're kind of competitive, so we put too much thought into it.
I see. All right. So, if you can hear me, touch your ear. Right ear, left ear, doesn't matter. If you can hear, I'm going to start making you guys walk around on one foot. If you can hear me, stand on one foot. Awesome. Now you got to give me the answer now. Stand on one foot. All right. Excellent. Now we're going to go group by group. Just going to talk real quick about what we had and what our results were. So we're going to start in the far corner over here. What was your best management practice?
Planters and swales.
Okay, and now with planters and swales, how much water did you end up coming back?
We got 3/4 of the cup back.
And you had a cup the last time, right? Yep. All right. So do you think that might be a good way to reduce at least some of that stormwater? Excellent. Second group. What did you guys have?
We had porous concrete.
Okay, which is like driveways and stuff like that. Excellent. And what was your results coming back?
We had
Half a cup. And you guys had a cup before, so that was a pretty good management practice then. So, all right, you guys right here.
Oh, wait, 2/3 soak up.
And what was your best management practice?
Naturescaping.
Naturescaping. What does that mean?
It's to use native plants to they basically prevent the runoff.
Exactly. So, and they're used to the environment. So the big thing is native plants. What is in Rhode Island? That's what you'd want to plant. And how much did you end up getting? 2/3 of a cup?
That's down from 3/4.
From 3/4 of a cup. So it's still you end up with less. It is a good management practice. Right direction. How about you guys? What was your management practice?
We had water holding ponds,
Okay.
and the amount of runoff was 49.9.
Okay. And what was it before?
207.305.
So
A
They-
75% reduction.
75%. That's what I was trying to figure it out. I was cups, you know. Anyway, excellent. Good job. How about you guys?
We had the riparian buffer, and we ended up with about half.
So excellent. So these are all really good management practices, and it's actually what we do as a community for those problems and issues with stormwater.
I just want to point out something. What do you think? So did everybody remove the impervious surface from 2 sponges? Was it 2 or was it 4? 1? Okay. All right. So that would make a difference how much land surface you were uncovering. What else do you think would make a difference? Why would some get less runoff, more absorption or infiltration than others for the same kind of practice? Location on the watershed. Yes, because these are mini watersheds, by the way.
Yes.
All right? And I noticed that this group down here, who had a 75% reduction, they had theirs at the bottom of the watershed. So the water flowed in and the sponges grabbed the water right away. So that's another thing to think about, is location in the watershed where you're doing these best management practices.
And I don't know if we're mentioning about it now, but also
right, so now we're definitely going to do quick switch gears.
Sit down. Yes, okay. So this is mine, so,
Forward, backward.
okay, I can do it. Ooh. That's serendipity, huh? Okay, so I'm just going to try to go over for about 10 minutes the topic that we think is important also when you talk about aquatics. We've covered, actually touched on a lot of different topics in our brief time here. We have looked at human use. We've looked a little bit at some of the impacts, including stormwater and how we can mitigate that. We've looked at groundwater. We're going to take a look at aquatic invasive species, AIS we call it. And these are slides that I got off of the DEM website, which will be available for you. So I'm going to run through pretty quick, but aquatic invaders in Rhode Island. And this ties in with the idea of invasive species in the grasslands, except it's focused on what's going on in the waters itself. So the DEM decided that they wanted to look and see what kind of and where they were, the aquatic invasives. And so they surveyed waters, the flowing and standing waters, wetlands, floodplains. What do all of these have in common? They're all low points, yep. They're all pretty flooded or have a lot of water in them. So they're either wetlands or flowing water or standing water. Yes? They are. They're in very natural areas, aren't they? Aren't these are lovely, lovely spots. So they looked at emergent plants, floating plants, and submergent plants. Emergent plants are those that emerge. They're usually those that are kind of persistent throughout the year. Okay, you can go along the edges of a river and you can see these reeds are still going to be there. Floating plants and submergent plants are usually something that you don't see in the wintertime. They're usually, the roots might be there, but you're not going to be seeing them. They surveyed 145 freshwater lakes over 20 acres. That's how many, Rhode Island has 145 freshwater lakes over 20 acres, and they surveyed about 60% of them. And what did they find? You found aquatic invasive species. Oh my gosh. So when we talk about invasive species, and I know you touched on it on your previous talks, what's an invasive species? Basically non-native plants, plants that did not originate here, but not all plants that didn't originate here are invasive. Let me see if I have it. Pardon me? Yeah, so there's some plants that we've called naturalized, where they're found in the habitat. They weren't here originally. A lot of them were brought over by Europeans when they first came here. They planted them in their gardens. They used them for food, but they have escaped from the gardens, but they're not taking over. They're not pushing out the native plants. So that's a very important distinction. Not all non-native plants are invasives. So, but we do have problems with these invasives. The most successful invaders often don't have any predators because when plants and animals evolve together, they usually evolve so that the animals utilize the plants and the plants utilize the animals. How would a plant utilize an animal?
Kind of like the coal cow thing with the manure going through.
Yep. So they would depend on manure or inputs from the animals. What's another big way that plants utilize the animals? Is it
Flowers and bees.
flowers? Yep. Pollination. And what did you say? Pollination, yep. And a big way also is seed dispersal, okay? How does a plant get its seeds in another area? And usually the animals help them out with that. So they have very few predators. They can often outcompete the native species. Native species have grown up, used to certain types of climate, certain types of heat regimes, certain types of flooding regimes. And these invasives come in, and they can actually tolerate the extremes a lot better, so they outcompete. And they adapt well to new conditions, whereas the plants that grew up around here might not adapt as well to global warming. With milder winters, bigger storms, they might not adapt as well as the invasives do. Usually they have limited ecological function. They don't provide food for the animals around here. A good one is purple loosestrife. I know you've all seen purple loosestrife. In the late summer when you're driving along the highways, and there's these fields and fields of purple flowers. They're so pretty. All along the highway, usually in the swales and stuff like that. That's purple loosestrife. No nutritional value for almost anything in this area. They can reduce water quality. They decrease biodiversity. What's the big thing about biodiversity? Why do we like biodiversity?
Just the more biodiverse an environment is, the more stable it is.
Yeah. Resilient. More stable and resilient. When changes happen, there's native species that can usually adapt to it. So decreasing biodiversity decreases the habitat quality. It can reduce water quality. Some of these plants decompose very slowly, so they take up oxygen in the water, and they degrade conditions for fish. And I have that problem in my beautiful Wood River. They can impede recreation. And I don't know if any of you have been on these ponds where there's just a whole bunch of these. They call them noxious weeds sometimes, but they can really be hard to paddle through. And they don't look very good. They entangle around motors. They're not good habitats for fish. They snag lines. They're just not that much fun. They can cause economic harm. They require substantial funds to manage, meaning that usually most places can't afford to manage them. Waterfront property is no longer that attractive, and which can threaten our tourism and damage infrastructure for things like aquaculture, which, see, we did touch on aquaculture. So the benefits of native aquatics, they provide habitat and protection. What kind of protection are we looking for in a habitat from plants? Shelter? Yeah, for what? Fish and the insects, okay? They got to hide. It's really important to be able to have that protection, to be able to hide, to be able to anchor onto something. So the native plants are important for that. They provide food. They have grown up in that environment, so their natural cycles of providing oxygen or taking out oxygen is in sync with what's going on there. They prevent shoreline erosion, which is really important on a lot of these coastal areas. And they usually are situated such that they can take up excess nutrients and improve water quality and clarity. So 71 freshwater lakes have at least one invasive species in Rhode Island. And that includes my watershed, the Wood-Pawcatuck watershed, which has is like 80% forested. It's not as impacted as the rest of the state, and yet it's got a ton of invasive species in there. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. The most common one is that variable milfoil, and you've probably seen it if you've been out on any of these lakes. So 47% of the lakes surveyed have it. Another one is fanwort, and like I said, I'm going to run through. And then there's these others. It shows the number of lakes, not as many as the variable milfoil. Water chestnut is pretty dramatic. If you ever seen it, it's got huge leaves and seed pods that can hurt you, actually. And the best way to take care of that is to pull it up. So that's an easy way to manage it. However, with the variable milfoil, it's a type of plant where if you pull it up and a piece of it gets cut off and floats down, it can actually root into the substrate and create a new plant. So to do that mechanical harvesting, they call it, you're just going to spread it out further. You'll get rid of it for a short while. It won't be so obvious, but in the meantime, all these babies are rooting all over the place and creating new plants and creating more of a problem. So there's different ways to manage these. Not all of them are really good. Newest invasive is yellow floating hearts. Aren't they pretty? Where do you think these things come from?
China.
Well, originally, yep. How are they getting into our pristine waterways that are surrounded by forested areas? Are they flowing in from stormwater? Yep. So, how do you think they're getting into our water? Some of them can be, yes. Some of them can be attached, especially pieces of plant. Very few, So what's a very common way that these things are getting spread around? Like some people are taking their aquariums or they have the fish ponds in their property and they're getting these species that are not native to here and they're getting spread out. So they dump their aquariums into a river or pond. And these parrot feathers and things like that are doing really well. Water chestnuts. What's another way that they're getting in here?
Boat bottoms.
Boat bottoms. Yep. Or the bottoms of people's waders, fishermen, could be tracking them around very commonly. So we think, we're not totally sure, but we think a lot of it is being introduced by human use. It's getting into rivers. Variable milfoil, which is the one down there, is the most common. Checked 80 rivers, only 14 have them. Why so low in the rivers as opposed to the ponds? Rivers have a different type of environment. They're more shaded, so they don't have a lot of sunlight coming through. Rocky, not as many nutrients. These plants like nutrients. So when there's a lot of nutrient input from stormwater or other human use, it encourages the AIS. I do have a problem with variable milfoil in the Wood River. Where it slows down, you can see it. As the river's flowing, it's fine. Wherever it slows down, there's a lot of variable milfoil in there. The bigger rivers have more problems, more nutrients, more light, and they tend to have more of the AIS. These are the major rivers with AIS. Anybody see a river that's not on there? So every major river in Rhode Island has AIS. And the management implications are tough. They're all expensive. The best way for some of these is to herbicides. Herbicides do what? Kill plants. So not only are they going to kill the AIS, they could kill the native, and I'm sure they're not happy environments for the fish that are there either. So we don't have time, and I don't think we're going to touch on all of the ways to do it, but there are management options. They're not great. Public access is not, and again, we're still learning about this. 43 lakes with public access do have it, or over 60% of the lakes, but not all of them, so that's good news. Fishing access, small boat, there's different types of public access. The ones that have the most AIS are the ones that have trailer ramps on it, so the bigger boats. And usually, so these are usually boats that people are taking from lake to lake to do fishing. So, being very careful, washing off your boat really well, checking it to see if there's any plants hanging off of it. If you got a plant hanging off of it, remove it. Drying things out between times is the best way to do it.
There's also a solution of vinegar that you can actually use to run down your foods, your waders, because we're not going to have time to go through the other slide that, or the other slide presentation.
But it'll be available to you.
It's going to be available, but that's one of the things is the vinegar solution.
Okay. And what you can do, and as I said, the current invasive plants, these are the ones of concern. The ones that are in red are the ones that are very common throughout the state. think we're going to end at that. Okay.
One of the best websites to get more information about the aquatic invasives would be the DEM Water Resources website. They actually have all the different species. They have links to the pictures of the species to identify them, as well as, we do permitting to try and prevent the spread of the invasive species.
Yeah. And one of the new things that the state did, I think it was a year ago, January, is they banned felt bottom waders. Anybody have waders here? Okay. I love waders. You guys all got to get waders. They're so much fun. But a lot of the waders have felt bottoms on them. You know what felt is. And they put it on the bottom of the waders. Why would they do that? More traction, yeah. I prefer felt bottom waders because when you're in that stream, those rocks are slippery. They've banned the felt bottom waders from fresh water.
And any waders that have not porous, that have porous surfaces, because people in Maryland were attaching drugs to their waders.
Okay.
So that's porous surface.
Why would they ban felt bottom waders or porous surface waders? Yeah, pieces of plant can get in them. There's another invasive, it's not really invasive, but it's out of control, didymo or rock snot, and they're as small as a diatom. A diatom is, microscopic, like a single-celled plant, basically, or animal. So they can actually get into the felt cell waders and stay there and live just very well and be transported that way.
So Denise, this, besides macroinvertebrates and watersheds and your typical aquatics test, this will be kind of an extra wrinkle this year?
This will be an extra wrinkle. I'll go easy with you on the macroinvertebrates because I hammered you on other tests. So I might ask one or two questions about macroinvertebrates, very broad, but we will be asking about aquatic invasive species. So, how are they introduced? What are some of the problems with them? Native versus invasives, things like that. And anything you might find in the slide, these slides, okay? Questions, please feel free to contact me or Kim. We love to help people out. We love to direct you to resources. And that's it.